coffee and food, we are going to wait just for a minute, and we're going to start at 25 past. Thank you. So if you want to grab some coffee, you can, but come back.
It's hard to be expressive. Yeah. I agree. What do you think, ladies?
I was basic. I saw the pieces and it was very nicely done, like everyone sees.
Oh, everyone was sitting?
Yeah, everyone
Okay,
was sitting.
then we do the, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
I haven't been into
but I
this.
also prefer standing, but I saw it in the videos and it was very relaxing. So
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Yeah, let's try.
It's the first time for everything.
Yeah.
It's weird for me because I'm going to stand here and look at you.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this pitching session on innovative productive use appliances and projects. I think we will gain more audience as time goes by. So I'm Iris Nicomedi. I work at the French Agency for Environment in France, and I have the honor of moderating this session. I'm gonna start, with a little bit presentation of what we do in this field. So this session will address the link between productive uses of energy and sustainable decentralized renewable energy business models and investments. So we are gonna see several projects that address this link from several points of view. Technology, appliances, business models, finance. You won't get bored, I promise. So before diving in, I just want to introduce briefly ADEME, so the agency I work for. We are a state operator in France under the supervision of the Ministry of the Ecological Transition and the Ministry of Research and Higher Education. So we work in the implementation of the ecological transition from all points of view. And we work mainly with local authorities, the private sector, and private citizens in France, but also at the European and international level. So we are a small team, of which I am a member. And we have been working in the sustainable energy access field for more than 35 years, mainly in Africa, I would say. We have been supporting and financing exemplary projects, so really small pilot projects. We support a lot of capacity building activities of our partners that can be national governments or our counterparts, but also local authorities, NGOs, the private sector, etc. We also are member of networks such as these and at the international level. And we actually implement several different projects with our partners. I would just like to give you two examples. The first one is a project that we are conducting with AFD, which is the Digital Energy Facility. This facility is a European-funded program which has several components, one of which is the launch of yearly challenges, which are call for projects that target either startups or utilities in Africa. So the goal is to strengthen this link between digitalization and energy access. And I wanted to do some advertising about this year challenge that we are co-financing. The challenge was launched on the 1st of March, and this going on until the 15th of May. It has 3 different topics, the first of which is universal electricity access and mini-grids, so coherent with the topic of this forum. The second is efficient grid management, and the third, resilience and decarbonization of power systems. So if you're interested, if you have a project that could be into this field, don't hesitate to come and talk to me later on. And then I wanted to present a project that we are implementing with ARE that aims at accelerating rural electrification in Benin, Cameroon, and Madagascar. So this project has 3 different components. The first one is a market study on decentralized renewable energy equipment for productive uses, so completely in line with this conference, this session. In this market study that is, we are currently finalizing it, it should be published quite soon, you will find information on electricity demand, existing appliances for productive uses of energy, information on market gaps and some recommendations, so really stay tuned for this amazing study. The second one is a technical guide that will be translated, available in English and in French, for rural healthcare facilities electrification. We have seen how much this is important, especially after COVID crisis, right? So you will find information on technical norms, PPA, operation and maintenance contracts templates. It will be quite handy also if you're into this field. And the third component is an awareness-raising campaign on decentralized renewable energy deployment for productive use in rural communities. I think all the things that we've been hearing during this conference will really nourish this awareness campaign that will also be launched in the following months. So again, stay tuned and don't hesitate to contact me, Jens, or Ines if you need more information about this project. So, without further ado, I will give the floor to my amazing, distinguished speakers. So I would like you to introduce the organization first, and then give me some concrete examples on how you work in this productive use of energy field. And all of this in 6 minutes tops. I'm gonna look at the time. So let's start with 2 companies that are working on solar energy solutions, but with different applications. So first of all, Jamilia, you are the CEO of Sanari, a solar APC based in Burkina Faso, and you're currently working on a grid-tied mini-grid project in a rural village in Burkina Faso. So could you tell us more about it? To what extent does this project address productive uses of energy, and what is your business model, please?
So thank you, Iris. Okay, I will try to speak closer. So thank you. I'm very honored to be part of this panel and to have the opportunity to talk about my company, Sanari. So as Iris said, Sanari is a very young EPC based in Burkina Faso. It has been created less than a year ago. So to briefly talk about the company, the team is essentially composed of me for now, but hopefully it will grow very soon. So just to talk briefly about me, I am an energy engineer. I was working as asset manager for solar and wind plants in France, and the idea of creating the company emerged during the COVID lockdown. I was reflecting on what I wanted to do in my life, and the outcome of this reflection was that I wanted to make my contribution to the energy transition in Africa, and especially in Burkina Faso, because this is where I'm from. So yes, the mission of Sonari relies on three main objectives. The first observation that I have made is that the market in Burkina Faso is flooded with poor quality equipment. I'm talking about the solar panels, the inverters or batteries. So it was really important for me to offer good quality equipment to the people. And another observation that I've made is that there is a lack of qualified people to design and install proper solar systems. So one of our major goal is also to design good solar system with good quality equipment, of course. And the third main goals of this company, maybe I should have put it first, is to provide people living in rural area access to energy, but at a fair price. In order to achieve that, we worked on mini grid project. So as I was saying, the electricity cost in Burkina Faso is really expensive. It's not affordable for most of the people living in rural areas. So the idea is to build grid-tied mini grids, and for the population, for the local use. But in order to address the potential problem of not reaching the good number of consumers for the production, the idea is to sell the excess of production to the utility. So negotiate PPAs contract with the state utility. So developing this kind of project would allow to develop the economic activities, improve people life condition of living there. So the idea behind these projects is to reach the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So every project we're working on, we try to address most of these goals. So I'm going to talk about one specific project that I'm working on. This is a very early stage of the project, but just to give you an insight of what it could look like. So the project would be located in the village of Bunu, which is my mother's village. And the project would be to implement a mini grid there to help people, because in this village the main economic activity is agriculture, and during the dry season it's very difficult for people to get something to do, and even the living conditions are really tough. So a mini grid will help them with irrigation, so they could continue working even during after the rainy season. And also they have there for women a multifunctional platform that works right now with a diesel generator. So it's not properly working because of the cost of the diesel. So connecting it to the mini grid will really help them to have an activity to transform what they collect from the agriculture. And also they have an hospital there that is not that have a lot of equipment, but that are not working because of the lack of electricity. So that would work. And also in this region they have big producers of cotton, so it will really help them to have the transformation activity there, because after they harvest the cotton, they cannot do anything with it. They just sell it, transport it elsewhere. So having the facility to transform it will really help them and create jobs. And there are many others application that could come from this mini grid. So I think I am in the time. So if you are willing to join forces with me and want to impact people's life positively, please, you are very welcome to contact me and see how we can work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamilia. You were perfectly on time. I'm so proud. So don't hesitate if you want to join force. I'm going to stress that since she's starting. Now I'm going to turn to Chiemela. You're the CEO of Solaris Green Tech Hub. Could you please present your company and the solutions that you propose to combat energy poverty in Africa, please? Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Iris. It is. Okay. Thank you so much, Iris. Thank you for having me on this panel. My name is Chiemela Anosike, and I'm the CEO and founder of Solaris Green Tech Hub. I'm a Nigerian, and Solaris is a Nigerian company. So one of the reasons we founded Solaris was that our focus is on those at the bottom of the pyramid who typically live below $1 a day. Now, there are available solar energy solutions in the Nigerian market already. Okay, thank you. Okay, so there are available energy solutions in the market, but we found out that these solutions are usually expensive for those in most rural and peri-urban communities to afford. So those who typically live below $1 a day cannot afford this solution. So of course we are aware of the energy problem in Nigeria. According to the Rural Electrification Agency, we have about 90 million Nigerians who don't have access to electricity, and this affects mostly those in the coastal regions of the Niger Delta. So that's one of the reasons we founded Solaris. Now, when we did our research, we found out that for those in rural and peri-urban communities, their energy needs are quite basic. They need energy to light up their homes, and they need energy to charge their mobile devices. Of course, in this age and time where mobile devices have become the main drivers of our lives. So what we do basically is to provide solar booths to these communities to be able to attend to their energy needs, which are quite basic, so that they don't have to spend so much on infrastructure, they don't have to spend money on the CapEx. So we retail energy to these rural community members and the peri-urban community members. And our model is quite simple. Aside from the energy poverty in Nigeria, there's also a rate of unemployment. So our model is quite simple, such that we work with young persons who work as a booth agent who retail energy to these community members in rural and peri-urban communities that are totally disconnected from the national grid. So this is more like setting up a micro business for these young persons. So we set up the booth, and these young persons have liberty of bringing other add-ons into this booth. So they could include the agency banking. So as we are taking electricity to these communities, we are also taking agency banking to them. So these young persons can also include sell of core cars and other things. So they set up a micro business for themselves. So that is the model we are currently applying. So currently we've deployed about a number of our booths in some communities in Nigeria, in the eastern part of Nigeria, and they are currently serving community members. So what we do basically is to retail energy to these community members so that they could sort out their basic energy needs, energy to light up their homes, energy to charge their mobile devices, of course, so that their children could study at night, so that they can go about their home chores, their night activities without much interruption. Okay, so Of course, that is what we do at Solaris, and you could join us to do this. You could partner with us to achieve this. You could sponsor. So we have the one-on-one project. You could sponsor to take a Solaris booth to one local community in Nigeria, so that you could give access to power to these community members. And of course, when we take electricity to them, we bring in other development projects to them. We take agency banking. We take other development agency, and of course, we attract other development programs to these communities. So you could partner with us by sponsoring to take one solar booth to a community that is totally disconnected from the national grid in Nigeria, of course. And of course, we are also open to investment. We're looking at deploying up to 200 of our solar booths to as many identified rural communities in Nigeria. So we're open to investment. You can invest with us, and you can also partner with us. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Thank you for this speech. Now, so we have talked a lot about solar energy solutions. I'm going to turn to Maria Elvira to talk about, who's sales director at Turbulent, to talk about hydropower, since you developed smart hydropower generators that are good in sites with small heights, right? So could you tell us more about your solution and how the use of electricity for productive use? Thanks.
Sure. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and also I really have to say that I am very excited to share with this new generation, to see your engagement and the power you transmit when you talk about your projects, really very motivating. So indeed, we are the side of the hydropower, so we can combine forces and make mini grids stronger together. Basically, I want to share with you today what we in Turbulent is a Belgian company that we have been working since 2015 in developing micro hydropower. Nowadays, we also have an office in Rwanda. And we basically inspire ourselves in the remaining hydropower potential that is still available in locations with very small height differences, and we untap this potential to produce electricity. So basically, it's not a coincidence, but most of this hydropower potential with very small height differences is very close to communities. An example is this irrigation canal that you see in the image that is just passing through a city, but it's not producing anything. So what do? We have developed a microsystem that can generate energy basically from water falling with the gravitational force. So it's a vortex. It's a very, very simple solution with a very fast payback time. It has been designed basically thinking in rural electrification, meaning that the maintenance is very simple and is designed for long years, many years. It's also, since it's not pressurizing water, it allows fish to pass through its blades that are rotating very slow. It doesn't generate any noise disturbing the community like diesel generators are. Why? Because the generator is submerged. And as you can see, we basically use a basin in the shape of a spiral, and it means that the civil works are extremely easy. We produce 24/7. As long as the water is running, we can generate base load energy. And just to give you an idea of what we need, here I share some images of our workshop where you can see the core, also the impeller with the blades and the electronics. Basically, at the last image, you see a turbine ready to be shipped. The cabinet is the size of a refrigerator, just to give you a scale. The same as these images where you see the team, part of my colleagues, together with local partners, working in the installation of the turbines. And it shows that we need a space, even for our biggest model, of 5 meter diameter circle. That's what we need to install one of our turbines. So it's really sharing with you and with this conference a new way of thinking in decentralized energy. We need no dams, meaning that our negative impact is minimized. It's designed for fish mobility to respect the ecosystem. And the most efficient way of working is by cluster of sites that are managed by Internet of Things. I've heard some of these concepts in previous talks. I think it's very important to use all these digitalized technologies to make it as efficient as possible. Where are our operating scenarios is basically, we have 4 models from 15 to 70 kilowatt for mini grids. Basically, we need either a sudden drop of 2 meters or a distributed drop where we can build a bypass along the river and install the turbines. We can generate from 100 megawatt hours per year to 600 continuous energy, and we currently have 18 projects running in different places in the world where we can provide energy. And the one I want to share with you today specifically is the one we are developing with our local partner in Kenya. And it's basically a project where we are taking energy from Matioba River, and our partner, Hydrobox, has been building this ABC model where we have our anchor is the tea factories that are the heavy consumers, and then we don't only provide energy for schools, hospitals, and households, but you know, when you produce energy, you need to consume most of that energy. So we also have the night shift to consumers, and that's where also the productive use is, let's say, share with e-vehicles, chargers that we're providing in the night with a partner, and refrigerators for agriculture so that they can not only put their crops, but also feed the irrigations. We talk a lot about solar pumping. We also work with hydro pumping. That's also a possibility because you have the rivers that are giving you the water. So this is an example that is currently developed, and I have to thank GISTIC because of the collaboration from the funds. So basically that's what we do. Yeah, I'm eager to share later with all of you.
Thank you very much, Maria Elvira. So we've seen really nice technology that can be applied in this field. I'm going to turn to Vijay now, who is the CEO of Inclusive Energy, a smart metering company. So Vijay, could you tell us more about your company and the role of data and digitalization to create sustainable business models for productive uses of energy, please?
Of course. Testing first of all. No? Shall I use a different one? Ah, here we go. Just a bit late. Hello everyone. Thanks for having me. So yes, I'm the CEO of Inclusive Energy. We are a business based out of India and the UK. I'm based in the UK myself, and we're 18 people at the moment. And I want to tell you a little bit about how I started in energy access. I won't make you guess where this is. I started in Orissa, and I set up a company to sell solar home systems and solar streetlights. And we were doing it in this very, very rural landscape. It's also a hilly landscape. It was really hard to get around. And the business didn't last long because our operational costs were simply too high. Every time something went wrong with one of our customers, we had to send a technician out, and it just cost too much money. And I wished that I had remote monitoring tools. After this business folded, I decided to go and make remote monitoring tools, the ones that I wish I had at the time. So that's what Inclusive Energy is. It's a specialist smart metering company. We work both in solar and also biogas. And I will obviously be talking about solar today because we're talking about productive uses. And our product for solar is called Cloud Solar. I have a few samples with me in the expo at the Energy Catalyst stall. So why do we believe that remote monitoring is so important for productive uses? Well, it's three reasons really. The first is that energy as a service models are even more important for productive use applications than they are for other applications. And I feel that energy as a service is a type of operational model that's actually been somewhat ignored or not taken as seriously as it should be in the market to date. Of course, that's different for mini-grids, but with standalone systems, I really think that energy as a service is an important part of this, and that's really aided by remote monitoring tools. The second part is to do with operational costs. How do you reduce
both public
your
and private sector, mainly pension funds and family offices in Denmark?
To reduce the operational costs, we can use remote monitoring to actually understand what's happening with a system and repairing things before they go wrong, before they go catastrophically wrong, and having a better connection between customer and provider. And the final thing is to do with carbon. Carbon's a big topic at the moment, and it's going to be an even more important topic for larger system sizes, such as cooling applications, e-cooking, solar pumping, and so on. All of these three things can be helped through remote monitoring. So I'll give you one specific example of a project that we're working on. We're working with Coolbox in Nigeria and also Focus Energy in the Republic of Benin. And we are integrating our cloud solar monitoring kit with the Coolbox fridge. There's a Coolbox fridge also in the expo. And we're going to be understanding really how these fridges are being used by the customers, how much energy is available. We'll use hyperlocal weather forecasting. And the hope is that by using this data really smartly with a degree of machine learning, we will be able to actually reduce the energy needs of those solar fridge customers. And we're hoping the overall aim of the project is to reduce the energy system cost by 10%. Because for a solar cooling solution, the energy system often costs more than the fridge itself. And that's something that we're trying to help through the use of remote monitoring. So if you want to talk to me about what you could do with the data from your systems, please come and talk to me. I'll be here tomorrow at the Energy Catalyst booth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vijay. So now for the two remaining speakers, you will give us a broader view, I think, of the sector. Matthew, you are the West Africa Regional Director at Energy for Impact. As such, you have supported several energy access projects. Could you please present the type of support that you offer? And also give us some examples of innovative business models that you've seen. And also tell us what is your uptake of your experience in this field, please.
Thank you very much, Iris, and hi everybody. Nice to be with you today. So I'm going to present Energy for Impact, so the energy platform of Mercy Corp. Just explaining very briefly. So Mercy Corp is a big NGO. Maybe some of you know it already. So very much active in the resilience field, trying to bring more resilience to communities. And Energy for Impact is a UK NGO, very much specialized in energy access. So we have joined forces together, and we have brought energy expertise within this big NGO so that we can do it at more scale. So the kind of service offerings that we propose, there is a number of things that we do. One of them is to support entrepreneurs from the last mile, which are newly electrified by the grid, and we promote entrepreneurship support so that these entrepreneurs can take the most out of the newly electricity energy source. Another thing that we do quite a lot is trying to see how we can solarize value chains, so agri-value chains mostly. So we are testing and piloting different appliances within value chains, specific value chains, trying to see how we can bring ideas and scale it when it works. We are also supporting clean cooking activities, from biogas to electric cooking or improved cook stores, and also supporting pretty much refugees and informal settlers to understand their energy needs and also to address them as much as we can. But what I wanted to speak and focus on today is the kind of support that we provide to businesses which are having innovative ideas in the PUE space. So we really try to help these businesses thrive and pilot and demonstrate their ideas. So we do it through different kind of programs and providing subsidies to these businesses and technical assistance. So one of these programs is PRIO. We also are part of a consortium, Energy Catalyst, so we've just spoken about it before. We are one of the implementing partners. And also we are one of the implementing partner of Get Invest. So we really try to see and think how we can help businesses demonstrate their business ideas. So we are at this very early stage where we believe we are quite a unique position there. So we have some other organizations there, but not so many. And what we try to do is really to go deep into the understanding of the business model and try to refine it and prove that it can work. So for instance, I won't explain the detail of it, but these are two PRIO grantees, for instance, SocoFresh and Inspira Farm. And in both cases, they are working in the cooling area. So in the first case, for instance, we helped SocoFresh demonstrate a cooling as a service business model, so business to consumers. And Inspira Farm was a leasing model, also for the cooling sector, so a B2B model. So this is typically the kind of program or project that we are keen to support, and really doing a lot of M&E, trying to see how this business model can work. So the kind of questions that we ask ourselves are, is it profitable for SocoFresh in that case, or Inspira Farm? Is it also profitable at the level of the clients? So for instance, farmers, which are using the cold storage unit. How much food losses reduction do we get out of it? What is the CO2 emission reduction? So we go deep into it and try to share as much lesson as we can based on the findings that we do. So these are very much action learning kind of programs. So we are, of course, we are keen to discuss with businesses with innovative ideas. We are also keen to discuss with like-minded organizations to see how we can have synergies. And of course also to donors who are willing to invest in that very specific area, which from my point of view is so much important right now, because when we think about productive uses of energy, there is still so much to do about piloting and trying to demonstrate. There is a reduced number of appliances which are really mature, so a big part of the work is still there. So very keen to discuss if you are interested. Thank you very much.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. Thank you very much, Matthew. So we have heard a lot in this panel, the word profitability, affordability. So I'm going to turn to the last speaker, Benson, who is the Africa lead of the Energy Access team at the World Resource Institute. So Benson, could you elaborate more on how to afford those appliances, right? And tell us more about the challenges that end users face in this field, please. And the solutions, of course, that you suggest.
All right. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Thanks so much, Iris. So as Iris has mentioned, my name is Benson Ireri, and I lead the energy access work for WRI, or World Resources Institute. Just to quickly mention about what WRI is, we are a global think tank, and we work at the nexus of environment and development. And we are convinced about transforming 3 major systems that you're looking at. One of them is energy systems transformation. The second one is cities transformation. And then the third one that we're also focusing on is food, land, and water. And I think you can be able to see the nexus across all these 3. Starting from energy, how do you need to then transform the energy systems in the world, of course, including in Africa, so that we can be able to also transform people's lives through, for example, productive use in the food, land, and water space, and then also in the cities, which are increasingly becoming the largest consumers of energy around the world. So that's mainly what we do. I hope I get it right. All right. So now, within the energy space, or the energy access for WRI, I don't know whether that's me. Let me just remove my phone. I guess it's the phone. Let me put it there. Hope it's going to be fine now. So within the energy access space, our work, we say we are focused mainly in stimulating demand for energy consumption. And I think for most of the people who have invested in energy access space in Africa, one of the major challenges is the low consumption of electricity. Whether you're speaking for mini grids or you're speaking even for utility, I think energy consumption still remains very low. And so we are very keen on seeing how can we be able to help stimulate consumption of energy. But of course, again, at the nexus of energy and development. And so we've been focusing largely on energy and agriculture, stroke livelihood, and the other one being energy and health. And I can see there's some partners that we've been working with in this room that we've been collaborating with in terms of health electrification and also rural livelihoods improvement. And so one of the key things that we realized through this work is that most of the financing discussions has mainly been focusing on the supplier side. Now, of course, to mention, there is nothing wrong with the supplier financing or focus on finance for suppliers. But I think also there's a missing link in here, which is the end user or access to finance for end users. And the reason being, if then you want to stimulate energy consumption, if you want to promote adoption of technology, then the end user we have to definitely look at the issues that the end users are facing with, and how then to be able to support them to access financing, for them to be able to also purchase, for example, productive use equipment. And so for us, we have been focusing a bit more on understanding that space. And so at the beginning of this year, we started scoping exercise that looks at the available financing for end users, and more specifically in the productive use space. That was one. And then number 2, we also wanted to understand what was the ease of accessing this finance by these end users. And then number 3 is we also wanted to see whether there's a role for China in the whole ecosystem of financing for productive use in Africa. And I will provide a qualifier why. The reason being, China continues to play a major role in the energy space in Africa. And so we were keen to see if then we want to stimulate more financing for productive use space, then what is the role of China in this conversation? So we basically just wanted to start from that point of understanding. And I think in summary, and you'll see I've organized this presentation in an interesting manner, that we start with summary and then we can go into the content of the presentation. So that if the moderator tells me I don't have time, at least you don't forget the main points of what we have found. You can see on the left side of the deck is the amount of financing or the market size for productive use. And this is according to PRIO. So in fact, we got these statistics from PRIO. It's $864 billion that will be required in sub-Saharan Africa to unlock or to fully unlock productive use space in the region. I don't want to get into the details of how that funding is divided, but I think it shows you the large size of financing and the space that is required for productive use. So definitely productive use is going to be the next big thing in as far as off-grid electrification is concerned. Ramping up, solar financing is ramping up, but unfortunately, how much is getting to the end user still remains a big challenge, which definitely we want to see how we can be able to unlock that. And then the loan sizes is still very challenging and very high for end users. And so tying this, for example, with the issues to do with the technical assistance that is provided by financing institutions becomes quite critical in then helping to unlock this challenge. And then in terms of what needs to be done, I think two main things. One is the need for us to be able to differentiate between mini-grids and standalone system. And the reason being the needs for these two subsectors are quite unique. And I think there has been significant attention getting into the mini-grids, but not into the standalone. But looking at also the specific needs for standalone, including even how to structure subsidies, for example, for standalone systems, I think can only be addressed if we look at these two as separate or standalone players in the ecosystem. And then, of course, there's need for integrated approach. What does that mean? Let's not look at, for example, just productive use as a unique intervention, but there are also interventions, for example, in the agriculture space, which has been happening over the years. So how do you then draw the connection and the links and the overlaps between productive use space, for example, and the rest of the agriculture that overlaps with that? I'm going to quickly run into this. So what exactly did we find? I think the only two main things I'm going to focus on this slide. One, we came across, so you can be able to see from IEA, the data there, between 2010 and 2019, there was a total of $12 billion US that was available for solar. But then, as I mentioned, we were looking at what is currently available for productive use financing. And what we came across were 33 main funding sources of funding program. And these are the ones that are currently active, and then totaling to $300 million US for productive use. Now, I think one of the key things that I need to mention, and you can be able to see the split on the other side of the deck, how that money is divided across the different subsectors. But I think the most important thing just to mention here is, again, even out of these 300 million, there was very little information that we came across that says how much out of this is actually getting to the end users. And the reason being, again, what you could be able to see is that a significant portion of that is actually going into research and development, for example, for the productive use technology. And then more specifically, again, looking at absolutely no funding that we came across from China for end users. I know I don't have much time into this, but just quickly rushing into this. Now, we try to ask ourselves, so why is there challenge in terms of the flow for financing to end users? Well, there are quite a number of challenges, of course, that we encountered. But I think just summarizing these into three. One is that productive use technology is still quite expensive. And so the figures there, you can be able to see the comparison of how much, for instance, is required for dryers, for freezers, for pumps. And then you can be able to compare, for instance, again, with solar home systems. How does that compare? But I think the whole point here is it's quite expensive. The appliances are super expensive. And the end users, for example, they're not in a position to afford. And so the reason why, again, how can you be able to focus on end user finance? There is a lack of integration of technical assistance, and I think here agreeing or appreciating the role of technical assistance. And my brother, again, he was talking about remote monitoring system, which I think are part of what we realized actually helped in terms of driving the solar home system business quite fast. And so what are some of these lessons that we can be able to learn that can be able to be adopted into the productive use space? And then finally, the question of risk perception. Now, why am I talking about risk? It's because we realize local financial institutions have a lot of financing within their reach, but then unfortunately, they don't have the right kind of technical expertise, for instance, to analyze business cases. So everything for them, they look at it from a risk perspective. And so I think collaborating with local financial institutions and building the capacity to actually understand the space in a way they can be able to actually then build the cases, I think would be quite important. On that other side, I'm told time is not enough on my side, but I think you can be able to see some of the potential approaches that we felt would be quite important. So quickly, just rushing, I'll not look at that side of the deck, but I think you can see. And that also, I'm not going to focus on it. But I felt it's important for me to quickly mention about the place of data. And so as WRI, we have been building a geospatial tool we call Energy Access Explorer that provides data on both energy demand and supply, and I think more important, data on productive use, which is actually integrated on that tool. And you can be able to then get into the tool. It's open access, it's open source. You can be able to easily get onto the tool, find what are the opportunities available in the different countries across sub-Saharan Africa for investment in productive use, which I think is quite unique for both financing institutions as well as also renewable energy companies. This is part of the value for Energy Access Explorer, I guess. And again, this one, for example, was a mini-grid. The mini-grid case for Tanzania, which we have built, which has information on population density, which has information on, for instance, solar and productive opportunity, social and productive opportunities. Again, mini-grids, where they're located, what is the potential for solar, etc. across the country. Now, finally, this is the last slide, I promise. So 7 major interventions we felt would be very important, I think, in terms of unlocking productive use end user financing for productive use. I think just like mini-grids, it's going to be also very important to also prioritize standalone systems. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the needs also for standalone system, first, I think, is a unique role for standalone system in the first place. But I think also more important, specific interventions for standalone systems, I think, needs to be put in place in helping to unlock financing. Number 2 is that we need to leverage on existing case studies. I think my brother from Energy for Impact has mentioned about some of the successful case studies. You speak to financials, they tell you we don't have information on some of these business models that could be scaled up. So how can we be able to leverage on some of these successful cases to leverage financing and to scale up financing for productive use? Then collaborate with all overlapping sectors. Again, I think, as I mentioned, so for example, with the agriculture, what is it that we can be able to build in terms of integration for that? And then also more important, to re-engineer part of the existing financing, including financing from climate finance space to actually get into productive use, and also building and collaborating with local financing institutions and seeing how we can be able to de-risk investment for LFIs or local financing institutions to get into productive use space. And then finally, of course, is the role of China. I think China, it has been quite big, especially on vendor finance, which for us, then looking at how we can be able to integrate end user within the structuring of vendor finance for China, I think would play a critical role in terms of unlocking financing for the space. Otherwise, thank you so much. I know that's exactly 6 minutes.
Thank you, Benson. The others were faster, so we're not so late on schedule. It's now time for the questions from the audience. So the floor is back to the audience if there are some people who have questions. I don't see any for now. Don't be shy. Okay, we have one question there. 2 questions. Great. Okay, so the mics are coming. Please just be really efficient in your question. Just be fast so that we can take as many as possible.
Okay, thank you. My name is Emmanuel Yeo. I'm the CEO of a company called Linnaeus Entreprise. We are based in Côte d'Ivoire, here in Abidjan. And this subject of productive usage is very important to us because we are on the demand side management, making sure that the end users are being included in the energy self-sufficiency in West Africa. That's our goal. So my question goes to, if I remember the name right, I think it should be about inclusive energy. I think somebody talked about inclusive energy. I can't really read well the name, but I think it's Mr. Bhopal from the UK, and also working in India, if I remember well what he said.
Correct.
Thank you. I'm very interested in knowing more about the question of monitoring, remote monitoring. Is your system, I would like you to talk us a little bit about how you monitor, what type of data transportation do you use to collect your data? Let's say you have some remote site in some very far place in the country somewhere where you don't necessarily have network coverage. How do you manage to collect data remotely from there? Or are you just working in cities, in well-developed areas, or what do you do? And because that tool can be useful to us and here in West Africa, and we'd like to know more about it. And my second question will go for the cooling as a service. And that is also a topic that is interesting to us because we are in a very hot area, and so cooling is very important to us, both for storing crops and other products, but also for comfort. And I would like to know more about cooling as a service. And I'm trying to remember who talked about cooling as a service in the panel.
That was Benson.
Okay.
We can pass it over.
Okay, good. So those are my two questions. And thank you so much for your effort to develop these topics. And I'm very eager to know more. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sorry, I just suggest we take 2 to 3 questions and then you can answer. So the man in the... Thanks.
Merci bien. Okay, merci, madame. Je ne sais pas si on m'entend.
Allez-y, on va voir.
Ok, d'accord. Donc, merci.
Non, on ne vous entend pas. Si vous parlez fort, je peux répéter la question.
Voilà, donc je vais essayer de faire porter ma voix. Je suis Sylvie, à ma possibilité. Voilà, donc je disais déjà que je remercie les panélistes. Je suis le président directeur général de l'Agence d'électrification rurale du Mali. J'ai beaucoup apprécié les interventions des panélistes. Au Mali, nous avons 63 opérateurs. Et parmi ces 63 opérateurs qui opèrent, qui exploitent environ 350 localités, des mini-réseaux, nous avons 2 femmes. Et nous avons fait une étude d'impact qui prouve que dans les 2 localités gérées par les femmes, il n'y a jamais eu de remous sociaux. Donc, cela nous a conduit à faire une politique discriminatoire en faveur des femmes, parce que nous sommes en train d'actualiser le modèle d'électrification rurale au Mali. Donc, ça prend en compte le concept d'usage productif et également la politique genre qui est déjà validée. Donc, sur cette base, je voudrais, c'est une approche que nous sommes en train d'implémenter, demander à nos 2 sœurs du Burkina et du Nigeria, si je ne me trompe pas, quel est leur avis par rapport à cette politique discriminatoire pour avoir des mini-réseaux efficients dans nos localités rurales. La seconde question s'adresse à madame, je suis désolé, mes frères, à madame qui fait de l'hydroélectricité. Le Mali abrite les 2 grands fleuves de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Et quand on regarde le bassin de ces 2 grands fleuves, nous avons beaucoup de sites hydroélectriques. Je veux parler des mini et des micro-sites hydro, et dont certains sites ont fait objet d'études depuis plus de 7 ans. Mais malheureusement, nous n'arrivons pas encore à développer ces sites. Alors que le concept aujourd'hui de l'électrification rurale voudrait qu'on mette en valeur le potentiel des sources renouvelables. Ça passe par le solaire, ça passe par les mini-micro-hydro. Donc, je serais intéressé pour vous rencontrer et échanger. Je suis encore là jusqu'au vendredi. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce qu'on a une 3e question avant qu'ils répondent? Il y a un monsieur là devant. Merci. Et après un autre. Ok, donc on va prendre les 2 et après on va répondre.
Bonjour la salle, donc c'est monsieur Abdoulaye Ba du secteur privé. Moi, ma question, ce n'est pas une question, mais je demande à M. Johnson. dans votre présentation, vous avez parlé de influence Chinese MDP and RA associations. Could you little bit go deeper on that so that we can understand that? Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we have one question here. Sorry. And yeah, if you're really fast, we can give it to you as well. But you need to be-
Oui, voilà. Je salue déjà, n'est-ce pas, le panel, c'est très indispensable. Aujourd'hui, vous savez, la serre énergie est très très complexe dans des zones reculées.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Olusegun Oye.
Just 1 second.
Allô? Oui.
Okay, you can ask your questions while we're figuring
Okay.
out.
So I was saying, my name is Olusegun Oye, Basecom Nigeria Limited. Talking about productive use, I just want to find out if the productive use can be applied for C&I projects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we have the mic here? Thanks.
Écho. Voilà. Je suis Monsieur Gérard Chouabia, je suis le président de l'Association camerounaise pour les énergies renouvelables. Je suis également le vice-président du comité technique CT19 des énergies nouvelles et renouvelables de la Nord. Je pose ma question en français. Ce n'est pas une question, c'est un constat fort, puisque nous sommes acteurs, n'est-ce pas, du développement des énergies renouvelables et d'accès à l'énergie. Ceci étant, je voudrais que les panélistes, puisque de ce que vous avez exposé, vous n'avez pas fait ressortir, à moins que peut-être je n'ai pas bien compris, la question de renforcement de capacité. Parce que parler d'investissement, il faut parler de renforcement de capacité. Ça, c'est la première chose. La deuxième chose, vous n'avez pas parlé, n'est-ce pas, de la norme, les normes. Parce qu'il est très important d'indiquer que si vous apportez les financements sur des technologies non adaptées, inappropriées, qui ne respectent pas les normes, l'investissement est voué à l'échec. C'est très très important. Parce que c'est facile, n'est-ce pas, de mettre en place des kits de mini-réseaux et que ces kits mini-réseaux n'obéissent pas aux différentes normes. Voilà, voilà mes deux questions que je pose aux différents panélistes. Les deux aspects que j'ai relevés dans vos interventions. Merci.
Bon, merci beaucoup pour la question. Donc, we can maybe try to answer to all of these questions. Is there someone who wants to start? And I can also recall all the questions that were asked. Well, Vijay, you wanted to answer to...
Let me answer the question that was specifically asked to me. I'll answer the question that was asked specifically to me first. You asked about how we do remote monitoring in rural environments. There's two parts to the answer. One, the type of hardware we use is actually a charge controller. It's not an additional piece of monitoring kit. So this is specifically for DC standalone systems. Benson was talking about the need to differentiate between mini grids and standalone, and I agree. And I'm obviously working in one side rather than the other. And then the second is about data connectivity. Actually, what we found, we have customers in 27 countries, including Mali. I think you said you were from Mali. Is that? No, you're from Ivory. You're from here. Anyway, and we have customers in West Africa, and we find that there is decent connectivity because we use the 2G network, and the 2G network tends to have quite wide connectivity. It's not perfect though. But what will happen in the next 5 to 8 years, and is already happening in some countries, is that the 2G network is being removed, and we have to move up to 4G, and that's going to be a real challenge, because we need the same breadth of connectivity, and we also we'll need mass adoption of 4G. So that's a challenge that's coming down the road. But at the moment, we rely on 2G, and we find that it works in most places. And if you're in an unfortunate situation where you have no connectivity, then we have to rely on other approaches. There's other approaches to doing this, like using tokening, for example.
Yeah, I'm going to comment the question from the representative of renewable energies from Cameroon. If I understood correctly, you were talking about capacity to make the system sustainable, right? In time, in like rural electrification. That's one fundamental aspect of the type of project or like the business model that we implement. We absolutely need to work with local partners, because it's impossible for us from Belgium, even if we have remote monitoring, we also have developed our own software for monitoring and control, meaning that we can turn off the turbine from Belgium. Even our turbine in Chile or in Congo, we can turn them off or look if they are producing the way. But it's only monitoring. When you have maintenance, when you have to control things, when you have contingency, you need local people trained and prepared to handle this type of situation so that they embrace their project also as theirs. So for us, a fundamental part of our projects is having local partners. Yeah, that's...
Maybe, Jamila, do you want to answer to the question of the representative? Thanks.
La question a été posée en français, du coup je vais répondre en français. Concernant la discrimination positive envers les femmes dans le domaine de l'électrification rurale, je pense que ça peut être un début de solution, parce que effectivement, même quand je regarde au Burkina, quand il y a des rencontres concernant l'électrification, l'électricité en général, l'énergie solaire, je me retrouve souvent pas à être seule, où on est maximum 2 ou 3 femmes dans l'assemblée. Donc je pense que effectivement il faudrait peut-être inciter davantage les femmes à s'intéresser à ces domaines-là, parce que je pense que peut-être qu'on a toujours cette idée-là que ce domaine, surtout en milieu rural, c'est plutôt masculin. Mais je pense qu'en incitant les femmes à s'impliquer davantage, ça va permettre, comme vous disiez, les cas chez vous au Mali où avec le meilleur taux de succès, c'était quand il y avait des femmes qui étaient à la tête. Donc je pense que les exemples vont parler d'eux-mêmes, et en faisant la promotion, ça va peut-être aider les femmes à plus s'intéresser à ces sujets-là. Donc voilà.
Jamila, do you want to also address the question? It was about positive discrimination, you know, as far as mini-grids are concerned. Okay.
Okay. Sorry? Okay. So I didn't quite get it. I wanted to get it. All right. So in Nigeria, in fact, I think just like what she mentioned, the best time to actually take part in most of these renewable energy development projects, the best time to actually do that is now, because there are a lot of programs set up to help encourage women to be a part of this. Of course, yes, there are discrimination. In fact, in Nigeria, it's believed that quite a number of younger women shy away from STEM-related courses, renewable energy, engineering, and all of that. But there has been, of course, there are in place a lot of programs, capacity building program, technical support program, fundraising programs, and all of that are supporting women to fully become a part of this. And for my company, our booths are designed, our business model are designed in such a way that is favorable for women to be a part of it. So our booths are designed in such a way that they are less technical and they are easy to set up, and someone with zero technical knowledge. So I think where the discrimination stems in is on the technical knowledge. So you get a number of women they don't have as much technical knowledge to do this, or they can't do the heavy liftings, the mounting of solar panels and all of that. So we tend to design the product, to design the booth in such a way that is less technical, so that someone with zero technical knowledge can easily operate, so that we have quite a number of women embrace it. So In fact, most of our agents at the moment are women. In fact, 80% of our agents are women. And of course, we take them through capacity building. Before we deploy, we give out the boots to them. So we tell them this is how to operate this and all of that. So I think, of course, yes, the discriminations are there, but there are still programs in place that are helping to, reduce that gap. Thank you.
You, do you want to answer to the cooling as a service question?
Je vais me permettre de répondre en français puisque je pense que le monsieur est francophone. Donc pour la question sur le cooling as a service, donc on a aidé une entreprise qui s'appelle SocoFresh qui est au Kenya et à tester ce business model. Donc en fait le business model exactement c'est donc des agriculteurs qui ramènent leurs produits au niveau d'un site où il y a donc une chambre froide et donc ils déposent leurs produits au niveau de ce site et ensuite SocoFresh se charge à la fois de réfrigérer les produits mais aussi ensuite de les vendre et donc repaye l'agriculteur en fonction donc du chiffre d'affaires qu'ils ont fait moins un montant qui est équivalent à un montant pour tout ce qui est la commercialisation et un montant pour tout ce qui est la réfrigération. Donc en fait, ce qu'a prouvé SocoFresh, c'est que à partir de à peu près 70% de remplissage de la chambre froide, on commence à être à gagner donc à être à faire du profit sous ce système-là. Donc évidemment, une chambre froide, finalement, c'est un volume, donc c'est l'exploitation de ce volume qui permet de commencer à générer du profit. Et donc voilà, donc ils ont réussi à prouver ça. Aujourd'hui, ils sont dans une phase, et assez rapidement d'ailleurs, où ils sont déjà en train de installer beaucoup plus de chambres froides. Et ils sont aussi en train de se diversifier. Donc là, ils ont commencé sur le secteur donc de tout ce qui est maraîchage, légumes, etc. Et maintenant, ils sont aussi en train de tester donc au niveau de tout ce qui concerne le marché de la pêche. Donc comment utiliser aussi ce même type de business model pour le marché de la pêche. Et voilà, je vais répondre aussi ou en tout cas faire un commentaire au monsieur qui parlait de tout ce qui est renforcement de capacité. Et donc pour le renforcement de capacité, effectivement, dans ce secteur, c'est très indispensable. Et on a, on va dire, à chaque fois en face de nous des usagers qui découvrent et donc qui doivent commencer à comprendre à la fois le business model et de l'application en question, qui doivent comprendre comment l'utiliser au mieux. Il y a beaucoup de fois finalement où c'est des tout petits changements qui font que le business model va être rentable ou ne va pas l'être. Par exemple, je vois dans un des projets qu'on avait au Sénégal, où on accompagnait des femmes à acquérir des frigos solaires. En fait, au départ, les produits qu'elles souhaitaient vendre, c'était de la glace. Et finalement, au fur et à mesure, on s'est rendu compte que la glace, ça prend beaucoup de volume, ça prend beaucoup de temps à se faire, et donc c'est pas rentable. Par contre, en changeant pour des produits qui ont une plus grande valeur ajoutée, qui prennent moins de volume, déjà on commençait à générer du chiffre d'affaires. Donc c'est tous ces enseignements au fur et à mesure et cet apprentissage et cet accompagnement des entrepreneurs qui est indispensable pour permettre de faire évoluer et de faire avancer les gens vers des business models rentables.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Benson, do you want to answer to the remaining questions, please? And there is also the one about standards and norms, so I don't know if you forgot about it, but there is also this question about standardization. I don't know if someone wants to answer.
Okay. Yeah, let me take the one for Chinese financing. So I guess one of the key, that's my brother who raised that question. So I think as I mentioned, one key thing that we realized is that there's no financing coming from China targeted to end users. But then there are two things that we realized from China from this scoping work that we're still doing. I think I need to just clarify that it is still ongoing. And one of the things that we realized is there is significant amount of attention going to the Chinese vendors in the renewable energy space. And so Chinese financiers, they are quite keen on funding or providing capital or financing the Chinese vendors in the renewable energy space. And so the bigger question then that we're asking ourselves is, how, in terms of then influencing Chinese financing to go to the end users for productive space, is how that could be integrated in the vendor finance for Chinese companies. I think that's number one. But then also number two is we realize that there's some significant amount coming from China in form of grants. But then the bigger question is how that capital, for example, can be used to help in terms of unlocking more financing from private sector or the Chinese private sector. Now, I think I need to clarify that these are some of the recommendations that we are making, that we also need to engage with our Chinese counterparts on the other side to then start influencing this conversation in a way then that can be able to help in terms of unlocking financing for the end users in the productive use space. The other question I think is my brother from Morocco. No, I'm not too sure whether he mentioned he's from which country. I can't remember. Mali? Was he from Mali? No. Cameroon, yes. Correct. I think he brought up a very important question in terms of technical assistance or capacity building, so to speak. And that's something that, of course, even for us, it's unfortunate that I had to rush through the presentation. But one of the key things that we are recommending is actually the place for capacity building or technical assistance, so to speak. Now, for us, we broke down the different forms of technical assistance that's needed. So one is for local financing institutions, for example. Now, of course, I know this is not so much on the appliance side, but from the financing side, local financing institutions needs significant amount of capacity building within themselves to actually then stop seeing everything from a risk perspective. Because I think it's just the lack of internal capacity that makes them then see everything from a risk perspective, both in terms of preparing business cases, in terms of analyzing business cases, etc. But also number two is for us to be able then to access climate finance. I think that requires some significant amount of capacity built for everybody that needs to get into that space. Whether you're speaking about local financing institutions also tapping into climate finance, you're speaking about end users organized in cooperative models, for example, or cooperative societies. How can they be able to tap into climate finance if they don't have the right capacity to actually prepare bids and to be able to meet the kind of requirements, for example, that's needed? Because we also realize that part of the lack of this capacity is also one thing that makes them to be in a position not to access some of these other financing that is already out there.
There was a remaining question about CNI. Does someone want to answer? Otherwise, I have really one final, really fast question for all of you. Do you? No? Vous pouvez parler après la session? We don't have time anymore.
Oui, je sais qu'on n'a pas le temps. Je pense que le panel a répondu partiellement à ma question. Vous avez répondu à la question du renforcement des capacités. Il y a la question des normes. C'est très important. L'investissement sur les produits, sur les technologies de mauvaise qualité est voué à l'échec. Voilà. Vous avez répondu au renforcement de capacité, c'est très bien. La dame a indiqué qu'il fallait, n'est-ce pas, former les ressources locales afin de s'approprier du projet. C'est très bien. La maintenance et autres. Maintenant, il va falloir que vous me répondiez par rapport aux normes. C'est très important parce que la question des normes, c'est une question qui se pose avec acuité dans toute l'Afrique. Au Cameroun, en particulier, nous travaillons sur des normes. Ça veut dire quoi? L'agence de normalisation, n'est-ce pas, de la Nord du Cameroun est en train de voir dans quelle mesure travailler pour structurer la filière. Parce que les produits, les technologies que vous, n'est-ce pas, faites la promotion, il faut savoir l'origine, la provenance de cette technologie. Est-ce qu'elle respecte les normes européennes? Il y a toutes un tas de questions qui se posent là-dessus.
Merci, Monsieur Gérard. On me fait des signes depuis la régie, il faut qu'on conclue. Donc je vous propose de continuer cette discussion de manière informelle après, parce qu'on en parle quand même depuis toute la matinée. Just to wrap up the session, I'm sorry, but I just want from each of one of you to conclude with just one thing that, in your opinion, needs to be leveraged to foster the productive uses of energy. One word, just one word, so that the audience doesn't leave being frustrated. It can be anything. One word.
For me, stimulate demand.
Okay, nice. Just play this game.
For me, I would say flexibility.
Flexibility. Yeah. Okay, thank you. For the others? I know I'm really mean.
end user subsidy.
Nice. Benson is happy.
I would say training.
Training. See?
Yeah, I will say data.
Data.
Just to monitor the before and after and matching.
Okay, thank you.
For me, I would say technical support, yeah.
Technical support. Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you for playing this game. A round of applause to our distinguished speakers. Thank you. And we're done. Okay. Thank you.
Mesdames, Messieurs, oui. Alors le panel prend sa photo pendant ce temps. Je vous informe, donc on a maintenant la dernière session, enfin les deux possibilités pour l'heure qui nous reste dans le programme. Soit c'est le matchmaking Get Invest RE que vous connaissez, donc dans la salle d'à côté. Soit il y a l'expo qui attend que vous pour développer les partenariats, les conversations. Donc, c'est là jusqu'à 18h30. Donc, soit faites du business, discutez autour d'un café. S'il vous plaît, enregistrez vos réunions. Comme ça, on peut les tracer pour faire le type d'événement qu'on fait aujourd'hui. Ou bien, allez voir l'expo si vous n'avez pas encore eu l'opportunité. Et puis ensuite, le cherry on the cake, c'est qu'à 18h30, on vous invite à une réception à la piscine de l'hôtel. Donc, c'est-à-dire où on a eu le déjeuner à l'extérieur, mais du coup à l'extérieur pour le coucher de soleil. Et avec de quoi boire et manger. Donc voilà. Donc faites du bon business et on se retrouve à 6h30 à la piscine.